Cool. Awesome. Good. So hello all. My name is Blake Rockwell. I am with Rockton Software. I'm the sales guy here. So if you ever talk to us, you'll probably be speaking with me. So I hope I can meet you after this. But this presentation is going to be monumental for anyone out there who is especially in the manufacturing and distribution space, or if you have a lot of items, a lot of customers, and they don't pay the same price for things, and it's really difficult to manage that. So if that sounds relevant to you, please pay attention because the next 14 minutes might just change your life. So let's talk a little bit about our product. We are Rockton Pricing Management. Rockton software has been around since the late 90s, providing solutions that help you work simpler and easier. And we really honed it in on a pricing software, where traditionally ERP systems, just like NetSuite, have struggled to do every single thing conceivable when it comes to pricing, right? So that might be whether that's simple pricing, like price lists, most of the time they can do that. But when you want to get those exceptions like commissions or buy one get ones, or these customers and items get a discount, but every other customer and item gets this price, multiple prices per item, multiple prices per customer. All those sort of things can be difficult to handle and manage in a simple and easy way. And that's where Rockton Pricing Management really shines. So let's talk a little bit about how we are different from what you might be used to when it comes to pricing management. Go ahead and turn off my camera here so you can see the nice screen here. So let's take a look at our let's keep it simple traditional price list. In this example, we're looking at a hardware store and how they might sell some things like a crowbar, a hammer, and some pliers. Okay. And so if you are this hardware store, you have costs and you're going to store those in NetSuite. And so this crowbar cost me $987. And then to calculate my pricing, I'm going to do a simple pricing situation where I'll just say 32% margin on everything. And so in this basic example as a hardware store, if I'm managing 10 items, I'm also keeping a list of 10 calculated prices and storing these somewhere. When my costs change, I then come in and reapply this formula and update these 10 prices. So managing 10 prices is pretty simple. This can be done. But let's take a look at how that exact same scenario is handled in Rockton Pricing Management. With Rockton Pricing Management, in fact, we almost don't store prices at all. We basically just store rules because in the end, when you're doing pricing calculation in Excel or you have a sales team or however you're doing that, you probably have some sort of formula that you're using to reach a final selling price. So rather than storing that final selling price, why don't we just store that formula? So instead of storing 10 final list prices, we just store one rule and it says take the retail price from this list, this one source of truth, and apply a 32% margin. Now, regardless if we have one, 10, or a million items, we only have one record to manage. And so if we want to change our margin, all we have to do is come in and edit this one record, update 32 to 35 or 25, whichever way you want to go, hit save, and all of your pricing is updated. This only gets exponentially worse if you're doing it manually, and it gets exponentially better if you're using Rockton Pricing Management. Let's take, for example, if you want to do discounts. Many people want to discount their loyal customers. For example, you might have a gold, a silver, and a bronze list price. Your gold customers get the biggest discount, while your silver and bronze customers, you still want to reward, just not quite as much as the gold. And anyone who isn't in any of those lists does not get any discount. So traditionally, what you'd have to do is you'd have those 10 costs in NetSuite. You'd calculate a retail price, and you'd have 10 prices there. And then you'd recalculate this list with your gold, silver, and bronze discounts applied. And so now we are managing 40 records in just that simple example where we only have 10 items. Let's see how the same exact thing is done in Rockton Pricing Management. It just looks like this. We have our percent margin of 32% on all items for all customers. And then we have a conditional filter that only applies in certain conditions. And that condition is if the customer loyalty level is equal to gold or silver or bronze, then apply the relevant discount. So for your end users in NetSuite with this example, they would just go and they would add their customer to the order. They'd add a line item. It would then ask Rockton, hey, is the customer loyalty level equal to gold? If no, it would ignore this and move to the silver one. Is it silver? If no, it ignores it and moves on to the next one. Is it bronze? If no, it ignores it and just applies this final retail price. And then if it was gold, it would give it 15% off and so on. And so Rockton Pricing Management is really great for just setting up those rules for those one-offs. And these rules can be as complicated and specific as you would like. There is no limit to the number of rules or calculations or filters or anything like that. So as long as you can tell me why a price should be or why a calculation applies, Rockton Pricing Management can make that happen. Moving on, you can kind of see where this is going, but the more complexity you add to your pricing structure, the more complexity it's going to be when it comes to managing that pricing. And so, of course, a common one too is shipping zones. You don't want to, charge the same price for everyone, regardless of where they are, especially if you're shipping all over the country or all over the world. It can be very expensive because shipping eats into a lot of your margin for many items. And so, especially with the smaller priced items like a hardware store might sell, a $9 item, that shipping can really eat into your bottom line. So it makes a lot of sense to have a different price based on where you're shipping to, or a shipping zone pricing. Traditionally, that would mean taking your retail price list and calculating it 8 times with a different percentage for each of those zones. And then for each shipping zone prices, then duplicating that 3 times because you need that shipping zone and that gold, silver, and bronze loyalty tier. Suddenly, those 10 items are now up to 320 records. And it just gets worse. I mean, eventually, there's no way that a human being or a team of people can efficiently and reasonably manage this type of pricing. You're going to have to cut corners, or you're going to have incorrect pricing, or sacrifice somewhere. Often it's driving a teammate crazy. So if you are that teammate being driven crazy, then go ahead and share this presentation with your boss, and I'd be happy to set up a demo. Now let's take a look at that same chaos inside of Rockton Pricing Management. We're not looking at 320 records. In this case, even though it is quite complicated and where we're starting to get there, it's still just 12 records inside of Rockton. We have our general 32% margin on everything, our conditional discount based on the customer loyalty level, and then we just add another adjustment. If it's in UPS Zip Ship Zone 1, add 4%. If it's Ship Zone 8, add 34%, etc. And so now we're just going to feed from the order. When your end users enter on the order, they're going to add a customer, they're going to add an item. It's going to check, hey, shipping to zone 2. Okay, I'll add 6%. This customer is a silver. I'll take off 10% and still that 32% margin for whatever that final price is. Super simple and easy now to manage even the most complicated pricing scenarios. And of course, when you have to update these because your ship zones change or whatever, it's very easy to just come in here and edit these adjustments. Furthermore, when we're basing with that cost and then applying these margins and calculations, we're also able to just update our pricing because when our costs change, these rules just stick around. And so your pricing automatically changes. It's really, really great. So you get the idea, with a sale, you're going to double that 320 to 640. With a sale, we just do a discount with a conditional. It's just a date-driven filter. Hey, if it's March, 10% off. Otherwise, nothing, right? Often what people do when they're experiencing something like this, and they're starting to get complicated, is they think, hey, maybe we should customize. I've got a great partner or group here with NetSuite that's able to help us and give us some great functionality, and they've customized things for us before. Now, the thing about customization is that it often can work really, really well. The trade-off is that it's very, very difficult and, in fact, impossible to maintain in the long run. So in 3 or 5 years, when your pricing changes or NetSuite upgrades or the developer that built your customization leaves or changes jobs, you're now left with an obsolete customization that no one knows how to work on, no one knows how to maintain. And so it's not the customization that's hard, it's the maintenance, which is why you can turn that over to someone like us, Rockton, where our main goal now, we have one product, and that's Rockton Pricing Management. And so we're going to be your pricing providers. We will own this. We will make sure it's up to date. We will take care of everything so that you do not have to worry about pricing management or making sure that you're seeing that your pricing is broken because your customization isn't working however long down the line it's been. So I highly recommend not customizing and looking if there's an ISV solution to support. You'll see a lot of great solutions on your on this webinar today, not just mine. But I highly recommend if that's something a route to go, it's always a better route than customization. Quantity breaks. That's another one we see. If you buy more volume, you get different deals. Well, that's going to mean creating all of that pricing for each of those quantity breaks. And so with 4 quantity breaks at 1, 10, 25, and 100, you're now up to 2,500 records from just 10 items. It gets really chaotic, and eventually you might be here. So if this is where you are today, then I think we might be able to help you make things a lot simpler and easier by cutting down these records and turning it into a rule-based system. And that's how Rockton Pricing Management is different. We just set up rules for the exception rather than calculating all these prices. Traditionally, if you had, say, a shipping tax in New Jersey of 3%, you'd recalculate all your prices and add 3% for the New Jersey destinations. With RPM, you just add 1 extra record, add 3% if it's New Jersey. Super simple. Another topic is imports. Talk about tariffs, right? Tariffs are changing all the time. We've got all these crazy tariffs. Say, okay, screwdrivers have a 60% tariff imported from China. Oh, great. Now I have to go look through my spreadsheets, find all of my items that are screwdrivers and the country of origin is China, manually update those, and then when the tariff goes away tomorrow or changes, I have to go and redo all that math. Well, with Rockton Pricing Manager, we just set a rule. If the class is screwdriver and the country of origin is China, add 60%. If that rule goes away, we just inactivate that rule, and the rest of the pricing we set up ahead of time stays fine. I see a question. Can we define price lists for certain periods? Absolutely. If you can tell me the data that defines a decision, we can make that happen. So if it's this date, this price applies. Well, is that date readable data in NetSuite? Yeah, the date's going to exist on the order, right? So as long as the data is there somewhere in NetSuite to read, we can feed it into Rockton and make a decision. Great question. Another one, unit measures. People talk about unit measure. Well, we can handle that. We can get a live commodity price from anywhere and pull it in. So like copper, for example, take that weight into account and then base pricing on it. We have a customer who sells wire, and wire is highly volatile because they use a lot of copper in most of the wires they're selling, and copper is a commodity and the price changes every day. And so what they do is they use Rockton pricing management to take the commodity price of copper every single day. They pull it into a price sheet, populate that, and then they use that as a basis for their unit of measure calculations. That way, when they sell a spool or a roll of different gauges of wire, they can automatically apply the relevant calculation based on how much copper is going into that specific spool of wire and also based on the current commodity price of copper. It's really, really sleek. All right. And then also, if you want to do things like competitor pricing, say you have certain items you want to discount because you're getting killed by the competitors. Hey, well, we just set up a rule. If it's in this category of item, drop the price by 10 or 15% or whatever. And then I saw another question. Is there an option to see a summary of the pricing formulas that are applied? Yes, you would absolutely see that. You can see the adjustments. We have a diagnostic log, and we also have a pricing test scenario where you can go in and play with some items and customers and see what the expected price is. I've only got a couple minutes here, so if there's one point to drive home, this is the screen I want you to see, and I want you to take home with you. So go ahead and screenshot this, take a mental capture, but this is what we can do for you, and I am not joking. It is not just sales jargon when I tell you we can help you be predictably and confidently profitable. And that is true because what most people do is they start with their cost and they apply profit margin, and they skip all these steps in between, which when your costs change, your landed costs, your warehouse costs, your tariffs, your quantity breaks, all those things can very much influence your profitability. And suddenly, you're not profitable because of a change in your supply chain or a change in your warehouse costs or a change in your tariffs. And so what we do is we apply adjustments. We create rules. So we start with one true cost, and that's a NetSuite. Take a one list price, one cost, have that source of truth. Then we do each adjustment individually. Apply your landed costs. Then apply your overhead. Then do your quantity breaks. And then that way you can individually adjust these separately, right? Well, your competitor margins and have those as a separate calculation. Taxes should be their own calculation, sorry. Discounts and promotions, set that up as a separate calculation. Customer loyalty tiers and shipping zones, those should all be their own individual calculations that you can individually go in and adjust. And then at the end, you apply your profit margin. That way we know when this 32% margin is being applied, we've factored in our shipping, we've already factored in our loyalty, we've already factored in our overhead and our landed costs and everything. So we know no matter what, when I go to a sales order and I add a line item that we are for sure going to be selling that for the profit, it is going to be the right price for the right customer at the right time. And of course, we handle all that other stuff. BOGO, unlimited discounts, tracking everything to the general ledger. So that's commissions, royalties, rebates, got all of that. Historical pricing, smart exceptions handling, you name it. If you can think of pricing, we can make it happen. So that's all I have for you today. I hope you're as excited as I am about this because it is crazy once you get going and the wheel starts turning how much simpler and easier you can be working. So if this felt relevant to you, please reach out, sales@rocktonsoftware.com. Check out our website, book a demo. I'd be happy to set something up. But yeah, I guess I've got 30 seconds if anyone wants to ask a quick question. But otherwise, I'll go ahead and pass it over. So thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Blake.
Thank you,
Yes,
everyone.
if you have any, thanks for keeping the questions coming. We appreciate it. So you feel free to answer those in the chat too as well, Blake, afterwards. You're muted.
Sorry, I was just saying I'll hang on for a few minutes, so feel free to leave your questions in the chat and I'll go ahead and answer those.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, next up.